Thanks again for rejoining us on the show. TMI, lovely Thursday morning. Of course, arising from the interview with the Executive Director, Environmental Rights Action and Friends of the Earth, Dr. Gordon Uyojo, we're looking into very interesting issue that has to do with the Edo 2016 governorship election. What are the candidates saying about youth employment, youth empowerment? The last guest we had talked about having an Edo State income welfare scheme for the unemployed and then for the elderly or the aged people. In his opinion, the candidates or some of them are not saying anything in that direction, especially the ones some would describe as the big two. Today on the show, we have two panelists along these lines to look at this issue. Maybe at best what we can get from this segment of the show in the next 2 minutes to have them introduce themselves. And then after the news update, we'll be back to talk more with them. I have with me in the studio the former state chairman of the National Youth Council of Nigeria. He's the convener of Youth Advocate.
Yeah, Youth Empowerment
Advocate here on WhatsApp. That's a WhatsApp group that is very, very trendy. Many of them have been birthed and they are all trending, especially with issues that they're bringing forth on the Edo State governorship election. Comrade, our good friend Solomon Idiogbe, many thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, good morning.
Good morning. I also have with us two very, very active. Each time he sends a post on any of the WhatsApp groups, it has a ripple effect. I'd like to welcome Ogbeide Ifaluyi-Isibor. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
You, thank you.
Okay, as I said before, we'll take a break for the news. When we return, we'll get a discussion on course. Stay tuned as we join Wilson Omasho for the news update. Thanks again for joining us on the show, TMI. Lovely Thursday morning. Of course, our focus now is Edo 2016 Youth Employment and Youth Empowerment. Of course, I introduced our panelists a while ago, but just to let you know that we also will be having Marcel Oko joining us live via telephone in the course of the program. He will be calling in to contribute to our discussions today. Well, for most analysts in Edo State, the contention basically is between what they've called continuity and change the change. That's the thoughts, that's the thinking, those are the views being expressed. But we want to look at these two sides of the divide. What has been done in terms of employment, in terms of empowerment of the youths? And then what is the proposal in terms of doing this post September 10 and November 2016. Gentlemen, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Let's begin with what has been done in terms of youth empowerment, in terms of youth employment. Let me start with you, Solomon Idiogbe.
I think in the areas of what has been done, it's like setting the foundation, trying to lay foundation for something better. And you know that most often it is much more easier to have a building constructed from the base than having a building collapsed, removing the debris, and having to start. It takes much money, much effort, much more manpower than when you are just going to go to a fallow land, get it dug by way of foundation laying, just put your blocks. But it's totally different. So much happened prior to this time, and to getting there, so much also needed to be done. And you will agree with me that in the last time not too far, you would have noticed that concentrations was made on the area of education, because he that is not informed is deformed. And haven't done the foundation laying, haven't laid a better foundation, haven't removed the debris, haven't made a clear land, haven't laid the foundation. Now is a time to make pure constructions. Constructions in the terms of empowering persons. At best, what we've had is trying to employ. But now we are trying to put the real things the way it should be. And that is why I think that it is not the beginning of everything that really matters. It is the end thereof. So if you ask me again, what has been done? I'll say a lot have been done. A lot have been achieved. Sometimes you do a whole lot of things, they are not seen. What happens here now within the studio can only be seen from what is being done by those sitting here as panelists. Whereas having the 3 persons sitting here, having to reach out to people, takes a whole lot from the technical crew, people behind the cameras and all that. So a whole lot has really happened. And if we want to go into that, I'm sure it will take a whole lot from us. When I say a whole lot, time. Yeah. And so, at best, I'll tell you, it's been foundation laying.
Okay. Ifaluyi, I'm tempted to believe that you share in these sentiments.
The temptation was wrong because I don't share in what my brother has said. He's majored on the assertion that foundations have been laid. That is a far cry from the truth. First of all, what is youth empowerment? It's creating a platform, creating a structure where young people can gain an ability to appropriate or have access to resources to appropriate to themselves and to make decisions for themselves, to help themselves and those around them to move forward. In Edo State, for example, there has been, in all sincerity, a failure of leadership, a catastrophic failure of leadership, where the Edo people have no role model, they have no hero in government, and they can look up to say, okay, I want to be like this person. That is a foundation laying for youth empowerment, for youth employment. It has to do with the orientation of the average Edo youth. How does he think? What platform has been put in place to reorientate his consciousness, to reorientate his beliefs and his attitude? For the first time in Edo State, we've had a system where the need to empower the sensitivity of the youth has been relegated. We have a system where those who, as some would say, should be behind bars are the ones who are propped up by government, are the ones who are made to raise revenue for government, are the ones who are made to, they are seen as those in government. It's a shame on leadership, a shame on us as a people, that the young people who should be empowered, the young people who should be seen as a future, are the ones that have been relegated. Go on the streets of Edo State today, the majority of young people are jobless. You will hardly find a young Edo man who has a complimentary card because he has no job. He wakes up in the morning, moves from place to place. He now helps others to collect tickets, to harass market women, to beat up our sisters in the market. Is that empowerment? That is what we've seen in the past 8 years. That is why I called it a failure of leadership. What we need is a leader, not one who enjoys using derogatories and invectives on campaign podiums. That is not leadership. It is a shame that we have not been able to build for ourselves a platform where we can encourage youth participation in the government or even an education of young people. Go around the schools you see today in Benin City. You have children, to some level infants, sitting on the floor to receive class lessons. That's a failure of leadership. And they say, oh, he has laid a foundation. That is not a foundation. You are crippling the sensitivities, you are crippling the abilities of even the infant at that age, making him see or making him feel that sitting on the floor is normal. We should be ashamed of ourselves to have such a situation. And this has worsened in the past 8 years. That is not a foundation. The PDP government will take over November 12th. We are going to create a platform where we can create leadership by example.
Okay, I'll pause you there because
that's looking at.
Yes, we're still building up the discussion. We'll get to that point. Okay. Now, it raised some fundamental issues that I think maybe you want to respond to. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't want us to dwell what has happened before now. I wanted us to look at what we should be expecting, but what we need to look at now is a better Edo State. Edo State better than 1999, better than 2011, and Edo State that will be better than 2016. So, but in any case, I would attempt to tell him when I said foundation did not mean that there was nothing on ground. Foundations have really moved beyond the foundation level up to the natal level. But you know, most often they say that when you make a building until it is painted, you won't see the beauty of it. Then the Benin will say, "As in a big painter, what the bricklayer has done with his craft work is usually used to praise the painter."
It takes the glory.
Yeah, but let me say it this way: is it not true that before this time you had manual arrangements of payments, manual arrangement of everything in government circles? Now you have ICT. Is it not true that ICT exists in Edo State? Is it not true now that you have an oracle, that no money leaves without being tracked? Is it not true now that at this time that government has been able to rechannel the minds of young persons? Because those who were trained on ICT, I'm not sure it was my grandfather. I'm sure it was young persons. Government cannot do everything. We must get that. But they must do their bits. I am not here to say government has done everything, because government has done everything, then there's no need for campaign. So government has done its best. Before now, you see, you talked about structures. If he wants to be fair, he will agree with me that Imaguero was not the way it was now, prior to this government. The way it is now. It's not like that. Ida College is not the way it looks now, before now. Olua Primary School is not the same way. I'm sure even across the road here, there's a primary school there that's wearing a new look. I know there's another story that we'll hear that it's Peter that started the project and Paul concluded it. But it's not the issue. But it was done as part of the foundation laying. That's the foundation laying that I was talking about. And now you see that young persons could sit down. It is this same government that invented having you see their projects and prospect online. EdoStateGovernment.org. You know, so the point I'm making is the government took a whole lot in trying to, yes, I might not want us to dwell so much on what has happened in the past. I would really be interested, because as it is now, we are all eager to see what will happen, because yesterday is past. We cannot reverse it. I'll be eager to see us talk about what we intend to get, what is our anticipation, what is our prospect for tomorrow. Because if we want to talk about what has happened, it may not be holistic. Because let me tell you, nobody is God. The government cannot be said to be omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. It cannot be all-knowing. It cannot be everywhere. Of course, yes, there are some schools that have not been touched, and that is why the government is asking for continuity. Because if everything has been touched, there will be no need talking about continuity. You cannot change the fact that the Grand Lanes along New Lagos Road was done by the government. It's foundation laying. You cannot take away the fact that secondary circular is now being tied by this government. It is foundation laying. I didn't want to start talking about them as projects. As talking about such actions and deeds of government as foundation laying. You cannot take away the fact that Teachers House that hitherto had Mami Water no longer has Mami Water, now is an express road. They are foundation laying. I drive around the streets of Benin City. Even now, we're joking outside the studio where you have posters and billboards across. It's part of beautification, if you ask me to. But
pollution, environmental pollution.
But having said that, that was on the softer side.
All right.
But you now see a smooth road that you drive on, and you look at both sides. You know what it used to be. Before now, you see posters being pasted on walls. There's a new invention. You no longer paste posters on wall. They are pasted now on billboards, hanging on
and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful,
and a whole lot of them, the supposed defacing of walls have now been channeled into social media. So you no longer see posters being pasted on walls defacing. Government created a platform by training young men to do ICT. And when you have trained, it's called like skills. They've been trained, their fingers have been trained, their brains have been trained. And so what they do, they're putting it to use. And you will agree with me, Duke, that this time around, we are seeing a whole lot of persons now on the social media walks doing campaign much more than you see before now. It's even more evil in Edo State than any other place. So the point I'm making is that what this has happened within the last few years can be best described by us as foundation laying.
Okay. Ifaluyi, you raised two issues, and you talked about along the lines of youth employment and empowerment. You talked about people who ought to be behind bars, being propped up by government to raise taxes and all of that. I also believe that these people, they are youths, and that they are employed, and that those working for them are also employed. So what do you make of this?
Okay, I will start by saying that youth empowerment, youth employment has its basis in education. Education is a life wire of a nation, and teachers are the backbone of education. If we are going to create a society where we have young people who are smart and intelligent, we have to ensure we have a solid educational foundation, which we do not have in Edo State just now. It is sad to note that there has been almost zero employment of teachers in the past almost half a decade. How can we assume to be laying a foundation for Edo State when there is no foundation for education? It's a misnomer. It's like I would say, it's a shame of leadership, because we are not focusing on the real thing. My brother is talking about the roads, talking about, if we do not focus on enlightening the young Edo man today, he will make nonsense of whatever road you've built. He needs to know by education and enlightenment that you don't litter on the road. That is a foundation. And that has been the lowest point of the government today. We've had situations where school fees are hiked, people can't pay the school fees any longer. For the first time in the history of Edo State, we had students of Idiogbe College protest to the State House of Assembly because they had no teachers in their schools. What is the use of restructuring the roof of my school when I have no chairs to sit down? That's the height of irresponsibility. I would rather have my son sit on a chair under a tree and have a teacher to teach him, to instill discipline in him, than have a beautiful classroom with red roof where there are no chairs and desks and there are no teachers. You have not passed information. You have not helped education. That is a foundational problem, a foundational issue that we should be seen not to be discussing about in the 21st century. Yes, social media has helped to birth a new wave in enlightenment. But that is not to the glory of today's government. Whether the government was there or not, social media was going to be, would still have gone ballistic at this time. So just like the question you asked, today in Edo State, we have people who celebrate billions, who really have, yes, they are youths, who really have no education, and then you are letting the others know that, oh, if you want to be like me or as successful as me, you must do what I do. What is the antecedents of those people? What are they known for? You must now have the ability to brandish weapons to be recognized by the government of today. That's a failure in leadership. And that's what we're talking about. That is not a foundation. They are young people, but are they being trained? Are they being empowered the right way? No. For you to say, okay, because they are young people, then they go into the marketplace to harass our mothers, that is not youth empowerment. You are crippling the consciousness of that young man. You are crippling his ability to say that he has to do it by force. Edo people don't want to pay tax by force. We are not dumb. Create for us a system that we can appreciate. The manner of youth empowerment, if there has been in the past few years, in my opinion, has been a disaster. That is not youth empowerment. That is not youth employment. Can you count 1,000 young people that have been employed directly or indirectly in the last 8 years in Edo State? Sadly, you can't if you want to be sincere to ourselves. We heard about the ones that they employed, and they call them, yes, the youth empowerment scheme, who were disbanded and sacked. And you see, it's all, here and there. There is no clear-cut agenda. There has been no clear-cut agenda for youth in Edo State. There has been no clear-cut agenda for youth empowerment because they have no leader. There is no person today in government that you can point out to and say that is a role model for the Edo youths.
All right, I'll pause you there. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll continue with this discussion, but we'll have Tony Akeni joining us here in the studio, and then we'll be taking a comment from Marcel Oko, who is a youth activist. He told me something a few days back when he came to the studio of a certain master's degree holder who is now a block molder. He molds block just to get things going. In a sense, self-realization, self-discovery, putting his skill to work in that direction. In another sense, if the job was there, probably he won't go into that. But we're going to interface all of these issues when we return after this break. Stay tuned. Thanks again for joining us on the show. TMI, we have evangelist comrade Tony Akeni Lemoy joining this discussion. It's been a while. How are you doing?
Certainly. Good. I'm doing good.
All right. Of course, we have Marcel Oko joining us live via telephone. That will be coming up shortly. But gentlemen, let's get this discussion on course. What are we bringing forth as it relates to the governorship election in Edo State come September 10, 2016? What are we bringing forth? What are we selling? What message are we bringing forth in terms of youth employment, in terms of youth empowerment? But before we take reactions from you, let me get Marcel Oko, who's been watching this program. Marcel, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Sonny Duke.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Let's get your contribution.
Okay. The issue in Benin right now is very, 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 very serious. Most especially the issue of unemployment in Edo State. This is the only state you see a graduate, after graduating from school, he goes back to learn fashion. And now what happens? That means whatever he has learned in school might end up being useless. We have some of the best men in the streets here. They are just in the street doing nothing. You understand? It's so annoying. It's so annoying that after you suffer to go to school, be a graduate, and even have a master's degree, then you start getting a job of 10,000 naira, and the job is not even secured. For the first time in 4 years, the electorate, we the people, now also important to these politicians. So we have to take our stand now, or else we stay another 4 years or probably 8 years again before it can come to pass. I voted for the APC government in 2011. Why? Because of the red loop policy and stuff. In 2012, when the current governor was campaigning, he said, every year, I quote, every year, he is going to employ 100,000 youths. Then he went ahead and said, industrialization will come over to this state. The state will be industrialized. Today, what do we see in the state? When you talk about employment, some people are getting it wrong. Employment ought to come with security. Now, when you're a special advisor to the governor, and before then you don't have a job, and when the governor comes to place and makes you a special advisor, you are happy. And perhaps on youth matter. What happens if the governor leaves the office? Where will you fall back to? You come back to the street. That is not employment. Employment is something you have to work for at least 30 years. Your job needs to be secured. You understand me? As I speak with you, I have friends everywhere, master's degree from graduate from University of Benin. We were taught by the best brains in an academic field. And they expect us to go out to the street there, to the world out there and tell them that we are products of this school. We are products from Edo State. We are products of Nigeria. We cannot graduate from university and we start leading the state. Who will now fix the state for us? Who will do that? Now, let me say something very clearly here. In 2011, the current government has said, I have fixed airport route. I have done the red route policy. And we have to vote for him. I voted for him. Now, 2014 I passed back, 2013, 14, 15, this is 16. And you're still coming back after 4 years to campaign with red route policy using campaign in 2012. Oh my God. Then you know that there's something wrong.
Okay.
There is something definitely wrong.
All right,
Now,
Marcel, I have to cut
Yeah.
you there. But
Okay.
I'm just thinking. I hope you are not being sponsored somewhere, like some will say. You know,
No.
in vocalizing all of these things that you're saying.
No, not at all, not at all. I am speaking for myself, for the unemployed youth, and for the graduates that are about to graduate from school, so that they will not come out and meet those people that graduated ahead of them, stranded,
Okay.
not having a good job.
Okay, I'll pause you there now, Marcel. I'll pause you there. You just stay on the line. I'm sure before we wrap up this discussion, you'll be able to make further contributions to it. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcel. Okay, that seems to be has given us a different dimension to our discussion today on youth, employment, empowerment, and Edo 2016. What message are we saying? What message are we selling at this point in time? Tony, can you just join us? But I'll come to you shortly. Let me begin with Ogbeide Ifaluyi. Yeah. What's the
thank
message?
you. Thank you. You see, what we've been doing in the past 1 or 2 years is sensitizing young people in Edo State, letting them understand that the time where you could be used for election malpractice or to perpetrate violence for elections has passed. We have metamorphosed and gone past that level. Now, when those who want to ask you to take up weapons come to you, you suggest to them to bring their children
First.
from London and from the US to come and teach you how to shoot the guns. And when you do that, they run away. So if anybody is thinking that there are some people somewhere, young people, who are going to help him carry weapons, who are going to help him steal the ballot boxes, he won't find. That's what we've been doing as a political party, or the PDP, I don't know of the others. You know, and we are sensitizing them on the need to vote. As young people, it is your duty to vote. You know, you must be able to make a statement with your voter's card. That is where it starts from. The idea of thinking that, oh, it will not count, so I don't have to vote. We have done a reorientation of that thinking. You must vote. It's your duty. If you do not vote, then you don't have a stake in the government. So we have been doing a lot of sensitization, and we have an agenda. We have a plan. We have a purposeful, attainable, achievable plan for the Edo youths. When we that's for the government that's going to be in place now. There's a plan to have every secondary school child from GSS1 adopt courses, vocational courses or subjects. It could be catering, it could be hat making, it could be bead making, it could be wood making, wood carving, it could be painting. They're going to have a couple of subjects to choose from, 4 to 5 subjects they will choose from, and they will do from GSS1 to SS1. By SS1, they will then focus on one of all those crafts that they will do till SS3. By SS3, when they are graduating with a WAEC certificate, they are going to go with a diploma in that particular course or subject. The diploma is going to be a collateral, which they will use to obtain loans and soft grants from our government. That is a sustainable plan for youth empowerment. We are not just bothered about employment. You see, there's a difference between employment and empowerment. A young man who is empowered will be able to create jobs. But a young man who is employed, that is only source of income. We are focused on empowerment, job creation, where you have people young guys who leave school, who are not looking for jobs, who are creating jobs for other people. That is the idea we're bringing to board, and that is the first of its kind in West Africa.
I heard about 200,000 jobs. That's coming from one of the political parties. I know that you represent that. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, I think if I attempt to talk about what we're doing, but it's okay. It's understood because if I recall, it's actually not the APC government that crippled technical schools to technical education. It is not actually the APC government that actually crippled introductory technology in schools and changed the curriculum. So that's clear. But what we're trying to do now is to ensure that, you know, I am not an advocate of youth employment. I'm an advocate of youth empowerment, because youth empowerment is rich. It contains virtually everything you need to move on compared to employment. And that is why we are saying skill acquisition I was going to react to that guy talking about a graduate doing this, because it's you rediscovering your inner self. For every man, it's like the biblical talent. It is placed there. It's there. You must go back, brush your talent and use it. These days we see people who are microbiologists, they are bankers. Yeah. If they are, I have a friend who read accounting. The guy is living big with this ICT thing. He